Hello, everybody, and welcome to Students for Political Engagement. Today, we have an interview with Harakh, who is a candidate for Ward 4 Councillor. So, good day to you, sir. And would you like to give us a short introduction of yourself and why you're running for City Council?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Rather belatedly, about a half an hour ago or so, I sent you a 2-page attachment. So I imagine you probably didn't check your email since then.
No, we saw the attachment.
Because I'll just go from that. That's one of the questions that was asked of me. And I really carried it, as was reported by the Richmond Hill Liberal. All candidates were asked those questions, and also had a map of the area, the municipal Ward 4 area, because my presentation will be based upon the area of the constituents or the voters, and the individual uniqueness of this area might not have universal application across the other areas, because over here we have the original settlers group. Richmond Hill started some 17 something or the other when they bought for 12 shillings the whole of Ontario, 12 shillings sterling, and from the First Nation. And most of the residents have tagged heritage homes at the back here, Elizabeth Street and Hall and all those other streets. So that resident ideology and philosophy and expectation and preservation very diametrically opposed to those at the northern end, Jefferson Road coming all the way down. And so as I'm going around, those differences are exacerbated, coming up more forcefully, and in that the top part of the city doesn't seem to engage, because the top part of the city doesn't think it's any of their business, or they didn't know how to get into it or how to become part of it. And as I was rapping on doors and that, some of the things that, you mean I can actually do that? Yeah, I can go on the internet and read all this stuff, but I never think it mattered whether we participate or not. So one of the challenge that we have here would be residence awareness. For the newer immigrants, or the newer, I shouldn't say immigrants, Canadians, why I'm running, and come back to that now. So as a candidate, I've been living here 36 years at Yonge and Major Mackenzie, directly opposite the library. And there were issues of concern to me that were not being attended. And I said, if I know all these politicians for at least 20 years or more, all the ones in power and everything else, by virtue of charitable organization I have called Caribbean Charities Foundation, we have annual performances at the theater, we have cross-cultural clubs, and all the politicians asked to come to speak or event. And if I cannot get them to answer my call about resident concerns, I'm not claiming I have an entitlement, far from it. So if you see my calling there, you say, yeah. What would you do to other people whose name has no meaning to you? So it starts to get my anxiety level up as to wonder what it's like for people who have concerns with the city to be able to approach the city and get something done. And I found out that we have something called Access Richmond Hill. And Access Richmond Hill I've had to use a few times. It does work, but it's not intended really to provide the kind of responses to taxpayers or to residents when they want little things done here, there, or the other. And for instance, like the clearing of snow and ice for people with wheelchairs. I've known people who got locked in last year and the year before, despite leaving messages for elected councillors. So the passion grew there. That is, we should be heard, and not only heard just before each election, but heard in a timely manner. So the driving force was that one. And if you get around to my paperwork there, it shows up somewhere. There were 3 or 4 items, and that was one of it. The second item that got me cranked up, I use the word cranked up now, because we're along Richmond Hill, there's homelessness that's proliferating. And it seems that our leaders don't see this. And I'm a CPA retired. I know businesses very, very well. I know businesses large and small. As a matter of fact, I've even been trusted advisors to a few NASDAQ listed companies in technology. And when I look over here, not only do I see homelessness, but I see the accompanying collateral damages. When I say that, I've taken some time to understand why are so many shop fronts vacant at Young and Major Mackenzie at the bottom here. You pass around, shops don't seem to last very long. Like businesses are prepared to come, but they can only come if they can self-sustain. With homelessness is antithesis to that. It doesn't encourage us and allow that. People come, do 3 months and run away. So if we have people who are business improvement associations forever in this place, and those same business people pay an additional tax, and the budget is at $200,000 a year, and we have even Harakh as part of that stuff, how come all the answers they can get is about studying and study group and consultation? These are business owners who cannot rent their places, and they are on Yonge Street, iconic street in the world, Richmond Hill, the main street. And we have elected leaders, pass by, don't care. And that came to my mind so solidly because we're going through right now what's called official plan update. And these are words that new residents wouldn't grab a hold of. I know of it, and it's so difficult to participate in it, but it seems the way to maintain status quo is making it difficult for people to understand, to follow, to read. So when the official plan update comes out at a 176-page report 2 times a month and say, well, we've sent it to you, yeah, or rather, duh, who's going to read 176-page? And you don't tell me about your change, and so you obfuscate it. And the word that actually is confusing processes. So you have confusing processes to design the city where your input and all the input from the people up north wouldn't get anywhere heard. And I've had written commitment from the official plan update people that my concerns that I express were going to be put on file, whereas the guy at the back here, who is what's called Better Richmond Hill, I don't know their names, they have so many of these organizations there, his input was verbatim, word for word, in what the new official plan is going to be. So what I'm saying is there need to be transparency of the processes that go to design our new visions of what we have. And along that line, I'm going to stop in a minute because I have to, in all fairness, give you 15 minutes too. So I dealt with homelessness, and the homelessness hit home so close to me that when the spillover from Young and Major Mackenzie near to those churches happened, I go around the corner of Major Mackenzie West, 100 meters or so. That whole 100-meter at homes, our lawn chairs or cabanas, everything, somewhere in there, if you see backpacks braced there, there's a homeless person active in the area. It makes our family fearful. And my grandchildren this summer didn't come because there were an abundance of them. The parent says, my children and grandchildren all live in the States. Grandpa, you got to come. I'm not coming there. I can't go walking 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes I get scared. So I believe that you cannot keep ignoring that. Aging at home is another thing. These are words that the city tosses around, I don't think they fully understand what they're saying. All they want to do is to tell you should die in your own home, but then tell you what your quality of life will be in your own home. I'm saying successful living would be the quality of life in your own home. The quality meaning you're still connected to a community, although you're probably living alone in a bungalow somewhere. You still have outreach programs from the city or the region to make you feel that you belong to the community, not isolated, old fogey, locked up somewhere or the other. And of course, the last one is that I see some of the councillors have motions to buy lands for development or for preservation or something. Well, we have the unfortunate blessing and unfortunate oxymorons, but we have to, I call it that way because I'm represented at that time by Mira West, and he put a, you guys probably also know of this development at Laurier Homes at Elizabeth Street in Arnold, building 88 townhouses there. You aware of that? Okay. Well, you come the other side, when you look through, there's my house that stopped the road. So what Mayor West, how he got that density, he took a red dot and he put the line from my from that all the way to Major Mackenzie, and 3 homes in here are going to be roads. So if you want people's properties for public purpose, it's your right to do so, but you also have the obligation to expropriate and then pay the people for it. That has not happened. For 5 years, we in our limbo, we cannot sell our place because the developer community, when they walk in, you want me to buy a land that is designated a road? You think I'm stupid? I would only pay for land that I can build on. Yeah, I'll have to give some to the road here and there or the other, but I'm not going to buy lands whose designation by the city is road. And that was done in a convoluted process as defined by the OMB. So that's my passion. And I'm only seeking in my head, I just want to get in there to affect processing some of these changes I have in mind. And some are very significant changes, but because of the competitive nature of the election, it's too early for me to disclose these. I'll probably do it at one of the candidates' meetings. So, gentlemen, that's your wake-up coffee. Life is sweet, sometimes bittersweet.
Okay, thank you for that. Just revisiting the topic of homelessness.
Yes.
What ideas do you have to address the problem?
I missed the question. What
ideas do you have to address the problem?
And your name is Sean.
Yes.
Sean is a very good question. And as a matter of fact, somebody disciplined me for asking that question. That was something I called the city to deal with for me. So in the first instance, I'm a resident. I'm not elected. I'm simply retired in peace and happiness. Where is my ward councillor to help me answer that question? Because we pay a lot of taxes, and those are the responsibility of the ward council. But I've taken it upon myself to do much more than just leave a message, which I never had returned the call, and they have never returned my call. So because the residents spill over into our area, it became very personal, very immediate. There's about 15 homes here. And I'm the only one with not much to do during the day. Everybody goes to work, so I've taken the mantle. And I called the city and, yeah, your council will get back to you. So I called the police next. Look, help me, man, because we're afraid here at nights, you never know. Somewhat the quality of life has changed. There's a risk involved with being surrounded by unknown presence of homeless people, and they might be in different mental stages and can hurt you. I was then told by the police, please don't engage us, because if you do that, these guys, the moment we let them back out, they're going to come and throw some stones in your windows and break them all up, and you have more problem. So I said to the policeman what to do. He said, call the region. Here it is, a resident have to go via the police to do what the city should have been doing. So we called the region, and I was directed to a number of services they have. And I took it upon myself to check out who run all these facilities here. There's a Craftsman House across the road that provides services. And I had some very good dialogue with the CEOs of these types of institutions. And there are many of them in York Region. And the first, in answer to your question now, Sean, sir, if you look at the homelessness and you say them and they are, and they've caused my life to change, look at it this way. There are two sides to that. They're also unfortunate. They're not receiving the help they should get. So they're the victim as well. And you now, your community has been shattered and whatever, you also are a victim. So what I can advise you to, don't see a homeless person, see a person and kind of see if he's a youth or a senior. And with that, there are different solution sets. This is, Sean, I'm repeating what I was told. And I believe it because I made calls and I was told that for some reason or the other, this Craftsman Center here is over capacity. Now, what does it mean by over capacity? There's more walk-in homelessness than they can deal with. So my answer to them, so what happens? Where do you have capacity? He says, shouldn't the city be asking me that? And the region, let's work all this thing out. Oh, well, maybe I better go on city council. This was the origin, the genesis of all this thing, that if it's simple a matter of escalating it to those who can do it, let's get the professionals involved, Sean. I'll go along with it, but intuitively, from my side, I understand what the guy is saying. Young people, he said, and if they're female, that's the easiest to solve because they just cannot go home for some social or cultural thing, or they feel safer there. If it's young boys or young men, it might be a bit different, might be involved a little bit of drugs or something like that, but there's still programs for that. And if they just stay on the street, they're not going to get the help. And if they're seniors, they're either alone or choose to be alone, or they have some dabbling of reality issues like mental issues. I don't like to say mental issues because the one thing I will commit to change. It's a mind issue, the mind, M-I-N-D. When you say mental, you stigmatize people. So people shouldn't go, we don't have mental issues. The mind is a bit unstable at this time. So in answer to your question, I'm not a professional in that regard. I'm not, I haven't made a, if I were a professional, I've been paid to do it. They are adequately budgeted funds for that. And there are a significant number of professionals. It's just the connectivity is failing between those that don't know how to access it or choose not to, and the people who are mandated and paid to try and relieve the situation. Beyond that, I can make donations like everybody would, but the structural thing is where it's at.
All right, thank you. And I think given that we're coming up to the time limit, so just on a final note, what do you think are the things you want to achieve if you are elected to city council?
All right. I've specifically stated that on, you guys please read that sheet after the fact, right? It'll help to clarify it, but I'm going to speak to it as well. I stated not only, the question wasn't what would you do, it was what would you do in the first 100 days? And this is the professionals, journalists from the on the Liberal Party. And we all had to answer that question. So my duration on city, I'm not hoping to even go for any re-election. I have no interest in. I want to continue enjoying my retirement. But this city, I would like to have issues that are bugging us attended to and without raising taxes, because the solution sets I have is all about don't obfuscate things, don't conceal things, don't have secret deals, and most importantly, don't form a clique, don't make a cult. People shouldn't be voting for ward councillors because they want to support a mayor. people should be voting for what councils because they have a vision of what they would like to achieve and sell it to the mayor. Because we have right now a city council that's so dysfunctional, and that's a word that I'm using. I don't think I like it very much, but it's a commonly used word. The city lacks, okay, as a student, now this as a student I'm speaking to, as I said, I'll allow you some time, additional time if you choose to take it. In MBA school, I remember being enamored with this theory. They had a program there. I don't remember what the name of the course was, but the topic was strategy and structure. Every organization, large or small, they have a strategy and they have a structure. So which comes first? Let's take, you go to the police, even police as a workforce. In our society, the police are well paid. So when you, as a violator or some potential violator in the street, you're stopped, you're dealt with fairly because the law is applying to you as it should be. But if you go to some other countries where the police are not well paid, you might find something like this happening. I'm from the Caribbean, and unfortunately, it's the way I like there. So it starts on the assumption that the person who's executing a function is not well paid. So they have to find a way to do things. So a police stops you in the Caribbean, say, and you hear the word left or right. He's not telling you which, asking for giving you direction. Left mean, are you going to leave a bribe? Or right, I write a ticket. So in Richmond Hill, we have subtle forms of that kind of structural deficiency that result in people are accountable. Like we have a group called Council Accountability Group. And I totally respect that group because I know Marge Andre for eons, 15 years and more. She helped us at all our charity events. I know David West forever too, because I was listed as one of his first financial contributor. I know all these guys. I support their work, but you cannot have council accountability where you're only challenging their accountability or their relationship with each other. It should be council accountability to the residents, right? What we hear March doing is they're fighting, they're calling, and the word point of order, the point of order. Right? That is not council accountability. That's a behavior at a meeting and a meeting governance function. Council accountability should be residents having the reach to you to say, look, my snow isn't cleared, what are you going to do about it? And you should respond timely. So it ties in back, the dysfunction of council ties in back to the total disregard for residents until election time. So I kind of lost track of the thing because I flipped into trying to teach you something. But if you ever get a chance to your career, dive a little bit into the word strategy and structure as it relates to an organization.
All right, thank you for that. And I think if we could go a bit more into the specifics of like, what would you do for residents? I think a specific part of City Council's responsibility that a lot of residents care about is urban planning. So
yes,
do you have any ideas on, for example, any ideas you have on urban planning, such as density of housing and the services that come along with housing that you would like to see implemented on City Council? And overall, what would your philosophy on housing be?
So sorry, I'm just remember the question. Urban planning, you framed it very well. You framed it in such a way that the answer doesn't have to get into negative speaking about anybody. And I'll show you the lack of vision, the other side of strategy and structure I'm talking about. It starts with what's the vision, all right? Most companies have vision and mission statements. And so once you do your vision correctly, then you have a strategy and then the structure evolves to execute that. The city of Richmond Hill does not have a vision of what it wants to do in any area. They're developing an official plan, which is going to take urban planning away from the residents and put it to them, because they're repeating all the old stuff and it becomes law. The official plan right now is a process that doesn't do the urban design, but it tells the heights and whatever else, and the design comes out from the urban design group. So specifically to your question, there is no vision of where Richmond Hill can be. And to make my point, the proposed changes to the official plan relating to downtown here, the same area we're speaking about with the homelessness, is a reply from one of the residents or representing a group there that Young Street should not be changed at all, because the official plan was proposing widen the road and put some walkways and cycle lanes and all of that. They say if you do that, you'll damage the fabric of the oldness of this town. So that's a resistance. I'm talking specific to Ward 4, urban planning. So that's a resistance. This is why I've lived there for 36 years and not a damn thing has changed over there. What did happen when the town of Richmond Hill moved out 800 jobs, because the town of Richmond Hill used to be at Wright and Young Street, they're so shallow that they moved the job away to Beaver Creek. So we're suffering from lack of workers, lack of people with employment there, and no employer has come in, and the business association has never delivered any. So that area became what they call a red hot zone, way before your time. And it was used with sex clubs and all of that, and the activity became serious. And where that Tridel building is right now, 10100 Young Street, was a club called Club Fantasia, where people from all over Ontario used to come to get nude girls and stuff. So something came and filled the void. Now, homelessness is taking that spot because we're still not building. I've been here 36 years, and we have all these brilliant elected leaders who has not given a vision. Urban planning is something that is so critical. And I did propose way back in 2020 that this area where I am at the opposite of the library is about 4.5 acres there, specific to us, Ward 4, that's up for redevelopment. And we wrote to the city and says, look, we'd like to work with you because you own a piece of land here as a landowner. Let us give a perfect design coming into Richmond Hill, the best in the world. I got a reply from Deborah Giannotti, governor for planning, says, nope, sorry. We are going to do it building by building. So if you come in to say you want to make your building a 4-story toilet, we'll consider that. If the other guy comes in and says, I want to make this building a 4-story bank, we'll make that. So the vision that drives urban planning is not in the order or policy or statement at the planning department of the city. So they take they don't have an urban design planning department. They have a building lot intensification department. So as a result, that you can never have a complete community, no matter what is written in their paper. And Mr. West has best, I was reading it before coming on here, this time, is to make Richmond Hill the best place to live in. Yeah, right. What is best place? Best to a blind man can be a walking dog. It won't be the best for everybody. So when you say that my vision is to get the best result, to get a positive development, these are undefined terms. It's like somebody, when I was growing up, I'm about to sign off now, I imagine. I had a mentor who, I was about maybe your age or something. I was looking out through, says, you see over there, yeah, what did you see? A nice building. Yeah, no, not there. The girls. Oh, they're nice girls. And he asked me 5 questions, give nice as a descriptive adjective for all 5. He says, man, you're so shallow, man. Come on, look at that girl again. You describe the beauty you see there the same as you see with a building. Look at that. said, you know, there's a word like beautiful, exotic, erotic, whatever it is. So when you say urban design, our department only sees infill compliance. That's the definition they use. They don't use it as a design that's meant to attract the eyes, appease the mind, bring the soul together, and make happiness total and complete.
All right, thank you. And I think on one final thing before we end, it's specifically on finance. So the financials of a city are obviously very important to it be able to run. So do you have any ideas on how the city should manage its finances and spend its money?
That's a whole different level of restructuring that's needed. I'm a CPA. Well, it used to be called chartered accountants. When it's really harder to get. Now everybody can be a CPA. I practiced well, and I'm skilled in that area. And sometime in 1993 or 94, 5, something like that, the hospital had problems with budgetary and whatever else. And I attended one of the meeting and I spoke about a few things. And I had a call back a few days later from the CEO of the hospital, asked me to explain what I'm saying more specifically. And I got invited to join the board of the hospital a week or two later. And I did that with joy, and I was on the board for about 12 years. So the finance area needs restructuring for the city and everywhere else, but that's a big thing. That's a provincial thing. At this level, they get a budget, and to spend a budget or don't spend a budget, right? They are not about what was the expenditure successful or not. There's no post-implementation evaluation. As a matter of fact, no municipality has it. So if you want to spend a road, say, I relieve traffic here, there, and the other, nobody come back 2 years later and say, okay, where's the 200,000 you say you were saved? Nothing. So it is a really awful situation where you're being taxed, you have to pay the tax, and that organization called the City Municipal Council, or whatever it is, accounts to no one for that. Because you can go do marketing tools to get reelected over and over and over again without paying any attention to the serious issues. And that's in play right now, because rather than accounting to people, they go say, I balance the budget. Balance the budget is not a target. What did you achieve with the money you spent? And so the people at the city, both the staff and the professionals, the elected leaders, they're compensated based on 3 factors: the size of the budget of the city, the number of residents in the city. So when time comes for pay raise, how they do it, let us say we have, I think right now we have a budget of 184 million operating budget. And they want the CEO pays come up. So they ring around, who else has 108? Oh yeah, what's you pay the guy over there? All right, we got to match that plus 10 because we're a bit more urban. So there's no relationship to taxpayer satisfaction to the budget or the salaries they get. So because they're paid on, they hire the budget, they hire the staff, they bloat it up. So your budget is bloated on self-interest, because I think the mayor is about 200,000-300,000. I mean, these things should be made public. Somebody asked me the other day if they're paid. I think the councillors are about 100,000 a year, and the regional councillors about maybe 200 roughly a year. So these are information that people should know, that these guys are not only fighting there for you, they're fighting for a job that pays well. So the budget of the city, I think, is not going to be feasible to expect reorganization of it as long as the motivation factors remain the same. Yeah, we can make some twigging here and there and pick out parts of it. and I'm sure that happens. I haven't really I think that's probably going to sidetrack the main issues if I go into some of the other areas that I think budgeted funds are being wasted on. More importantly, the region seemed to have unlimited money to spend, because in our taxes, it has a regional and a municipal portion, and the regional has unlimited money to spend. And I'll give you how a mismatch happens. We have that visa transportation system coming through. We're planning for the subway to come up to York region, up to Major Mac. Buddy, we're putting in infrastructure now. We're spending money now. And we have within our constituent bases, the users of those systems, people say, no, we don't want more people here. So you have the taxes going up, and the Visa has 5-lane driveway, and they're not running anywhere near capacity because the population hasn't grown to match that. And our local elected people are saying, the thing called MTSA, Major Transit Stations Area, in Ward 4, that is being stripped away. They said, yeah, but because we're so unique, whatever, we cannot implement that, and we do not want that density. I don't think that's right. I think if the region spent whatever billions around that bus stop that they have there, it should carry, and the city should make the population grow to the point that they were projecting, and not superficially say too many people. And the processes are there. It said, if you want, like right here, Major Mac and Young, it should be a transit-oriented center and not a car-oriented center. Yet that instance of the talk earlier, people taking lands for cars. The mismatch, a budget spent building a Viva, road being taken over for more cars, when cars are inimical to people walking to the transit station. We have employers here. The hospital is one of the biggest employer. The hospital has 3,000 24/7. Why don't we have buildings here that make somebody walk there, walk to the shopping mall, walk to the transit? You know, those are inimical to the current best practices that Mr. West wants to implement, or best city he wants to live in. But he doesn't say exactly what that best mean or positive mean. But he stated a bunch of stuff there, and it stated a grandfather type of statements. And Matthew, I had your attention for a while, and I see you're interested. Feel free to call me at my campaign anytime and book some time if you want some. But I think I would like to engage you too. If you can find a time, come out and partake in the process. You will enjoy it, I think. I'll take you walking around with me to 10 doors. Hear what the people say.
All right, thank you. And I think we will end our interview here today.